Mother, man.
Hey everybody, this is John Duke from VOTOV, and you're listening to Murder Metal Mayhem.
Spreading faster than a case of the clap in a trailer court. Able to shatter eardrums within a 666-mile radius. A podcast more brutal than all the rest. It's Murder Metal Mayhem! This is Pete Altieri with Murder Metal Mayhem, and I have the privilege to be doing this interview with John Duke, bassist of the Winnipeg death metal bands VOTOV and Immortal Possession. Thanks for taking the time out to chat with me today, John. How are things up there in the frozen tundra of Canada?
Hey, Pete. Hi to all the listeners out there. We're doing well. It's
How many feet of snow is there already up there?
quite a bit, actually.
We've man.
A couple of feet over the last couple of days. So.
Oh, my God. We're getting like 3 inches on Saturday, and everybody's filling up their bathtubs with water. It's pretty ridiculous. So,
Why is that?
They just get panicky whenever they're calling for snow. It's hilarious. I mean, we get a fair amount of snow in the Midwest here in the United States, but not what you guys get up there. So it's just funny. People get panicky about it, so.
I guess there's not going to be any water or what?
Yeah, just that, and the grocery stores empty out because people think they're going to run out of everything and all of that. So, well, first of all, I really dig you guys. Shane, the listener from up there in Winnipeg, he told us about you, and I checked it out. Definitely old school death metal all the way, but I always ask bands of their influences, but I thought I would ask you, are there any influences you guys have that might surprise our listeners, being that you guys are a death metal band? Anything that might be a little different?
I mean, yeah, obviously we have all the standards probably that you grew up with and I grew up with.
Right.
A couple of bands that really influenced me that might be a little surprising. Thin Lizzy.
Okay.
He's a huge inspiration to me, just from the standpoint of the bass lines he created and his stage presence, how much he prided himself on that, making shapes and stuff like that. Caius is another one. I don't know if you're familiar with them. They're more stoner rock, and again, he's been a really big influence on my style of playing as well over the years.
That's cool.
Otherwise, you've got the standard, obviously, some of the big Canadian ones, Sacrifice, Voivod, bands like Exciter.
Yeah, Exciter back in the day, boy, that was like when I was first getting into heavier stuff and really digging on Exciter, man. Violence and Force, love that shit.
Yeah, Infernal Majesty, Aggression, bands like that. And then, definitely my ultimate favorite band of all time is Black Sabbath.
Me too. That's funny. Geezer Butler. How could you not be a bass player and be influenced by Geezer? Tone for days. I mean, just the nasty, nasty tone. Love his playing.
Yeah. And he took the blues and just made it so much heavier.
Oh my God. Yeah, right. And the love is, he's what got me into playing with my fingers too. Him and Steve Harris for me as a bass player, Bob Daisley. But Steve Harris and Geezer for the finger playing for metal is just really awesome. So that's cool. And I'm sure there's a lot of the staples for death metal that got you guys into it. Morbid Angel, Obituary, Cannibal Corpse, all those early bands.
Yeah. Celtic Frost, Hellhammer.
Sure. Yeah, I think guys that grew up in the era that we did have a little more appreciation for some of it, because back in the day, I mean, before the internet, you were finding out about these bands by tape trading or from reading magazines that might be almost a year old, but by the time they got to your little record store, they were new to you, and you're looking through them for album reviews and reading these band names like, that's crazy, I just want to check that out, and getting some real duds, but every once in a while you'd get a real gem in that batch, So,
yeah, and back then you didn't have
streaming
the world
and YouTube and
yeah, so basically that's what you did. You went to the local record shop, looked at the albums. If you didn't know anything about them, at times you based your choice on the cover.
Oh, hell yeah. I remember many a time getting burned on that. Really cool cover and it totally sucked, or a really shitty cover, but the album was actually really good,
Yeah.
I love Don't Break the Oath, the Merciful Fate cover. That just drew me in, and I got obsessed with them back in the late 80s. Definitely loving some Merciful Fate.
I love old Merciful Fate as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, King Diamond too. Yeah, love it. Yeah, for sure. Now, what do you think about the state of death metal today, just overall? I mean, do you seeing like new bands getting in the fray, or some of the older bands still hanging around, which is cool?
I think it's a real combination of both, actually. Starting to see kind of a big resurgence of bands from the 90s and stuff reuniting and getting back together. And also, yeah, there's a million bands out there. Like if you want to listen to something different every day, you could probably have,
totally
listen to albums. It's almost overwhelming at times to actually think about how many bands are out there competing for your ears.
Right. Yeah, I always love to look at this time of the year with the countdown of the best albums of the year, and I go through those to see, are there any I don't know about? And last year I did that and stumbled upon a couple of great bands. One of them is Skeleton Pit from Germany, thrash metal stuff. But this year I found a couple of pretty good ones in the batch doing that. So yeah, you just never know. Or we did a countdown of our top 5 last night for our year-end episode, each one of the 3 of us. And one of the guys had a band I'd never heard of before called Knife. And those guys are really cool, thrash metal, old school style thrash band. So yeah, you just really come upon some gems. But like you said, there's so much of it out there. It's almost like overload, and you try to sift through it and find something that might last,
Right. And the other thing is trying to actually get people to pay attention to what you're doing, right? Which is, in that big things, it's hard sometimes.
Yeah, I know. I haven't played for about 5 years now, but now doing the podcast, it's the same thing. There's so many true crime podcasts out there because we do true crime and metal both. But the true crime podcasts are just overwhelming. There's so much of it out there, so it's tough to compete with it. And it's kind of funny. We cracked the top 200 on Apple for comedy podcasts, and here we're doing true crime and metal. So, but we do mix a lot of humor in with it, so I guess that's how it becomes a comedy podcast. So, whatever it's worth, hey, we're glad that people are digging it. Now, speaking of digging, of course, I got my VOTOV shirt on that I ordered from you guys, and got it incredibly fast. So I must have scared my postmaster, thinking that if I don't get this shirt to this guy, he's going to come down here with an aluminum bat, because I got it pretty quick. You were impressed with the speedy delivery, and I have been jamming the shit out of your IXXI album. What went into that, like songwriting wise and recording? How did that all come to be?
Well, basically we released our first album. It was, I think, December 20th of 2017. And we had obviously our original drummer, Matt Penner. And honestly, 2 weeks after that album was released, he left the band.
Oh, wow.
So
that sucks.
promote an album that just came out, and basically you don't want it out there that, well, now we're a two-piece because we don't have a drummer, so we're having to kind of promote the album, keep that a secret, but yet
Wow.
try scope out potential candidates. And we happened to, like, while we were doing that, obviously, we wrote about 4 songs within, me and Chuck wrote about 4 songs within, I don't know, about a month period. And that was the big start of the album. But basically, he came up with some skeletons, and we kind of worked them over a little bit. And then I sat down and wrote some alternate bass parts to them. And we started jamming them for a while. And we were very fortunate enough to get Derek Kroll, who's been our drummer since, I guess, 2018 now. He was involved with another project of Chuck's called Eam. And he actually got really interested in the material when we showed it to him, and immediately started learning the first album. And we kind of just worked on the songs as it went from there. And over about 6 months, we just gradually wrote that album as we were kind of coming together as a band. So they kind of all really flowed naturally. And we had quite a bit of time over that period to jam the songs and get really comfortable with the structures and everything, and actually, make the songs as good as they could be. So,
right. That's cool. Did you record it yourself, or did you go to a formal studio and do it?
No, we do everything ourselves. Derek's got a studio in his home, and
awesome.
Got capabilities at home. So basically, we do the majority of the stuff ourselves. The only thing we actually had help with was the final mixing and mastering. And that was a friend of ours, Jake Sasher, who used to play guitar in another band of Chuck's called Serrated Scalpel. And we gave him the record, and basically he made it sound amazing. So
it sounds really good, man, and it's amazing what you can do just recording yourselves. We, in my former band, that's how we did it too, and we didn't have any money, so we had no other option. Yeah. That's cool.
The thing is, too, it gives you full control over everything, pretty much, right? The more you do it yourself, the better off you are in terms of having control of everything, release.
Oh, I agree. So, now, you guys are from Winnipeg, Manitoba, up there in Canada. What's the scene like up there? Of course, pre-COVID, because COVID has screwed everything up. But overall, what is the metal scene like up there in Winnipeg?
Well, yeah, COVID's really done a number on it. But prior to COVID, our metal scene was really alive and thriving. We had, I don't even know how many active metal bands in the scene. And any given weekend, like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you could have up to 3 or 4 competing shows.
Wow, that's cool.
We had, I think, about 6 or 7 venues at that time. And it's dwindled down to maybe 2 or 3 now. Yeah,
I wonder how long lasting this is going to be for bands and clubs. I mean, it just really sucks. I'm glad I'm not playing anymore, because I think I would have been really depressed over all this. It's just rough. Yeah,
it's really hard not playing live, because that actually gives us a huge rush, and it's good for your spirit to play live. Mm-hmm. But just playing music in general for the 3 of us, it keeps us all sane. So we're kind of fortunate enough to be able to do that still. And there's lots of bands out there that basically haven't jammed since the beginning of the pandemic.
I know, especially in these countries that are super restrictive about it. I know some of the German bands I've interviewed during the early stages of this. I mean, they couldn't go like 2 miles away from their house, and they had to be only going to the grocery store or the pharmacy. That's it. So that really puts a damper on band practice. Unless you could do it virtually like this. Which I know some were probably doing that. So, yeah, it's too bad. Like I said, I'm glad I'm not. In a way, glad I'm not playing anymore. Now, speaking of COVID, I know some bands have done the virtual concerts and, live type things, streaming. Have you guys thought about doing any of that at all? I know it's weird with certain metal bands. It's just playing to a camera or a video screen is weird,
Well, we actually did, I guess back last year, I'm not sure. I think it was probably in March, just after all the lockdowns and things started opening up again here. We did one of the very first metal live broadcasts.
Oh, cool.
America, at the Park Theater. And that was pretty big for us. But we've also done stuff, I guess last year too. Immortal Possession, that's our other band. It was the original band that me and Chuck were in years and years ago. We recorded a live DVD off the floor in our studio.
Oh, cool.
And actually have that available for sale. It's called 30 Years Festering.
That's
and,
cool.
Got 10 tracks on it. And basically we had a buddy of ours, Dylan Bailey, come in, and we just got a bunch of GoPros going and had him going. He's got some really awesome cameras, and took a bunch of different angles and everything. So
awesome.
It turned out really well in terms of the sound and everything too. So we're thinking about doing that. Seeing as Derek didn't play on the very first album, we're thinking about doing the whole first album back to back with Derek playing and do it live from the studio.
Oh wow, that's a great idea. Yeah, I definitely may have to sink my teeth into that DVD. Get me when we're done here, send me some info on that. I'd like to get a copy of that. Sure. Very cool. Now, what bands, I ask this question every interview I do, and I don't know how many great bands I've heard about this way. What bands are you listening to that our listeners might not know about? Any cool local bands or bands you just like that maybe are a little more obscure that you might want to mention?
One band that I really, really like, and kind of sad to say, I don't think they're active anymore, but they're called Ye Goat Herd Gods. Ye Goat Herd Gods from Calgary.
Oh, wow.
They only got one album out, but it's really good. It's kind of got an old school feel to it, but and it's kind of Viking based.
Okay. Like a Mon Amarth kind of thing, maybe?
Kind of a little bit, but better.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not huge on them. My son likes them, but not as big on them myself.
Another band from Calgary I really like that we've played with in the past too is Hammer Drone.
Yeah.
I don't know for them. Good two-piece black metal band, Picado. Oh man, there's so many bands out there.
I know. I interviewed a band a couple weeks ago from Sweden called Warfect. I really love those guys, three-piece thrash. And I asked him this question, and he said FKU, a Swedish band. I'm like, FKU? And he said what it stood for, but with his accent, I couldn't make it out, and I didn't want to keep asking him what. So I just went back to it and Googled it and figured it out. It's hysterical. They're kind of a fun goof band, but they play legit, kind of an old school thrash sound. But the FKU stands for Freddy Krueger's Underwear. they they come out with the Freddy Krueger sweaters and jam the fuck out. I mean, it's crazy. And all the songs are like, a lot of the songs have funny titles. Like they do one called The Pit and the Poser, kind of like The Pit and the Pendulum, and they do kind of fun play on words type stuff. But yeah, it's one of those bands, like you said, there's so many bands you almost can't think of them. And when they threw that one into the ring, I was like, that's probably one of the most original bands I've ever heard mentioned in that conversation. But yeah, just really cool stuff. Corzus is another band I learned about this way, from Brazil. Great thrash band. Just really good stuff. And you guys, I mean, we were talking to Shane about bands from up in his neck of the woods, and he mentioned you guys. And so it's just, that's the cool thing about Metalheads, man. We're really all about sharing, you know, bands that we dig. And, you know, back in the tape trading days, that's how it was done. But nowadays, a guy could mention it and you could be, you know, YouTubing it and be watching a music video within, you know, 10 seconds. And that's pretty awesome, you know. So it's got its advantages.
A band called Corrosive out of Toronto, they're actually signed to the same label as a CDN.
Oh, really okay. Corrosive?
Yeah, or other buddies of ours, Dustwalker, that's another band that's really, really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I'm all about it. All about it. Now, we've talked already that we're both bass players, and so I have to ask you, I really dig your tone on the recordings you've shared with me. What is your weapon of choice when it comes to a bass, and what kind of rig is shaping that tone that you've got?
Well, I've actually got an American Elite Fender Jazz bass.
Cool.
And that's it's got an active preamp in it, I guess, in the pickups. But other than that, I don't use any tone, like any effects or anything for my tone. I've got a GK 500.
Nice.
That, you know, it basically weighs about 4 pounds. It's a tiny little thing, and
it's
then
unbelievable how far they've come.
Through a 410 cabinet trainer.
Nice.
Definitely have to play through 10-inch speakers, because
you want that punch.
Anything else, it just gets too floppy with the way we tune.
Yeah.
You know, which is drop B. But basically, a lot of my tone comes from the style of playing, the way I play, like the nuances, myself and Chuck as well. Mm-hmm. A lot of it's in the hands.
Yep, I agree. I'm experimenting with a dark glass pedal toward the latter days of my band Low 12, and I really like that. But I agree, the way you attack the strings, I had EMG pickups, and those are definitely nice and bright. I had a 410 and a 15, and I used PV stuff, but my first rig was a GK, and always loved it. I mean, great stuff. I always like to ask bass players that question, so not getting too geeky on the people that don't want to hear that stuff, but a little bit of it is all right, you know.
For sure.
Now, how do you approach playing bass in a three-piece? I don't know if you've ever played with two guitars before. I've done both, but I find it's a very different style of bass playing between the two. What do you think about that?
I've always, like back in the day, Immortal Possession started out as being a two-guitar player band, and over time we adjusted to just be a three-piece, because we lost the one guitar player because he had to start playing drums. But that's but anyway, yeah, I've always played the same. It is a little bit different in terms of you can easily get lost in the muck of things if you don't have a clear sound for yourself, and
right.
You know, obviously you want to have everything being the same level,
right.
So if having volume wars on stage or anything
yeah,
obviously, right. And you see that with young bands that aren't experienced, and
Right.
but I've always approached my playing the same way, and I just try and do as much as I can with four strings. I'm not into playing five-string basses or playing with any real effects or anything like that. And I just figure if you're a real bass player, you can do whatever you have to do on four strings and make it work.
That's cool. That's cool. I found with the two guitars, you're a little more handcuffed during the solo sections because you're following the rhythm player. Because if everybody's doing something different, it just sounds like a mess. But when I was playing in a three-piece while the guitar player was soloing, I had a little more freedom to do some stuff because I wasn't worried about having to lock in with the other rhythm player, But that's cool. I always like to ask that when I talk to a band that's a three-piece, just curious how the bass player attacks that subject, And I knew you had been in bands for a while, so I thought I'd, see what your take was on that subject. Now,
Even have a secondary rhythm player, like if you're playing harmonies of what they're playing, there's always things you can do that are a little bit different and unique.
Yeah.
To keep just to round out the sound and make it fuller, not necessarily distracting from.
Yeah, because a bass player's got to be that foundation. I always hate bass players that overplay. I think there's a fine line between doing some cool stuff and just flat out overplaying the instrument. It just doesn't work. You could be. Like Alex Webster. Is as amazing as they get, and he plays some tasty bass lines and they fit with what they're doing. But some of these guys, I think, in bands I've seen over the years, just to me, a little bit overplaying the instrument.
Yeah.
Now, I had this question, John. I want to ask you something fun, and I thought this would be a good one. If you could only choose one of the following to get trampled in a VOTOV mosh pit, would it be A, Justin Bieber, B, any member of Nickelback, your choice, or C, David Draymond? Now, the first two are Canadians. I almost did all three Canadian, not on purpose, but then I thought, I'm going to throw in a U.S. one to make it more fun. But if you had to choose, John, which of those three?
Hands down, it's got to be Draymond. At least got a little bit of street credit.
That's great. Yeah, I can't stand that guy either. He's from Chicago, which I'm about 2 hours south of there. And I remember in my last band, Low 12, we played this club up in Burbank, Illinois, which is a suburb. And the owner's like, yeah, this is where Disturbed got their start. Something like it was supposed to be like an impressive thing. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. So we were doing a big... Back when I was playing, I had an organization called Heavy Core, and it was all like a union of metal bands, and they were all over the world. And we would do these, what we call poser roasts, which are 6 or more bands, but they all had to be in Heavy Core. And so we were doing a poser roast at this place, and he had this brand new Macaulay PA up there. And we played last, and we came out there and just blew the doors off this place. And about halfway through our set, and this was about a month, maybe after the Great White incident. I'm singing, playing bass, and I smell something burning, and I look over, and one of the Macaulays is literally in flames.
Wow.
And I looked over, and the sound guy's like, keep playing. And I'm like, okay. So they had the old speakers right off the side of the stage. So they wheeled the new shit off the stage and plugged the old speaker back in, and this thing is like smoldering. You're seeing like people with fire extinguishers putting it out, and the sound guy's like, man, he goes, I don't think I've ever seen a band so cool. Like, you guys acted like it was no big deal. I'm like, no, legit, I was kind of freaking out a little bit, especially after what just happened in Rhode Island with with Great White. But yeah, blew the Macaulays up and in flames. So that hopefully was a long-lasting impression on him. But yeah, I can't stand Disturbed. And so yeah, that's cool that you picked David Draymond. One of our co-hosts, his brother Michael, I always give him crap about being a Disturbed fan. He gets mad at me, but it's all fun. Now, you also play, you mentioned in the band Immortal Possession, which is brutal as hell, with the same guys that are in VOTOV. Now, you guys have something that you're doing that's coming up, or is that what you already mentioned?
No, like last year we did the DVD, and we actually we're going to be releasing an album in 2022, probably early in 2022. Hopefully, I'm figuring around March or April.
Awesome. So how does that differ from VOTOV? I mean, what do you guys, VOTOV, how does the two bands differ? Because it's the same people in both, right?
Yeah, I have to say that Immortal Possession's more satanic, gore-based, where VOTOV's more intellectual, so to speak, in terms of song topics anyway.
Okay. It's funny you're saying more satanic, and it's got this big inverted cross and I'm digging it though, man. I love it.
The symbolism runs through both bands, obviously, but
that's cool. I was just curious because I saw that you guys are the same members and it's death metal, but I was just, for our listeners, if anybody's wondering what the differences are. Now, go ahead.
Actually,
sorry.
Yeah, Immortal also has a second guitar player.
Oh, okay.
Lee Arnaud. And he lives in Ontario, so we don't get to see him that often, a few times a year. But yeah, that's the major difference. Is there's two guitars.
Oh, cool! I didn't realize that.
And what you're gonna hear on this album, basically, we recorded in Immortal Possession. We only did 3 demos back in the day, and we were never happy with any of those recordings. So we came up with the idea, myself and Chuck, over time, that if we ever found the right drummer, we would redo these songs, re-record them, and release them.
Oh, cool.
So that's what we're gonna do. We've been, like, over the years, we've been offered by so many different labels to re-release all these demos, and I was like, no, man, we don't really, we're not proud of those. Like, they were
quality wise,
they were recorded terribly, and even though back in the day that we did pay to go into studios and stuff, but you had that constraint then of the time and money, right?
Clock's ticking and money's flying out the door. Yeah.
So everything was a compromise, and now, like, you can do your performance as many times as you want to,
whatever it takes.
Right. So, we just thought that would be a good thing to do, and obviously Derek fit well, and he basically put what we wanted in those songs from day one, like from when they were conceived. He actually got our vision and was able to, like, carry it through. So we're really happy with what he did on the record, and there's going to be a bunch of guest appearances because we don't have a lead player. Neither one of our guys play lead. They're both rhythm players. So we've our old guitar player back in the day, Dave Stewart, was a lead player, and he kind of played both. So we've got some different guys coming in to do leads and stuff.
Awesome.
A couple of guest spots on vocals, on violin, stuff like that. We're gonna try one violinist from Edmonton, Aaron Welsh, did a couple of songs for us, and we're trying to actually get the original violin player from the Mass Murder EP to do a couple of parts on there as well.
Very cool. Very cool. What about podcasts, Johnny? You're a busy guy, but do you have any time you listen to podcasts at all? I mean, I know you're a Murder Metal Mayhem fan now, but other than that,
Recently came across these guys. I think they're local. The Two Idiots podcast.
oh, that sounds like our speed. That's for sure. Meaning us, not you.
Yeah. No, they were pretty entertaining. And they kind of just talk about whatever, right? From everything from metal to sports to,
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, I don't know, man. These days, time is
I know.
time essence, and everyone's so busy and everything. If I have anything on, usually it's in the background while you're doing other things, right? So,
Right.
unfortunately, I don't get a lot of time to do a lot of listening, but I do try when I have the opportunity.
That's cool. I have to ask you, are you a fan of the Trailer Park Boys? I did not ask Shane this when we talked to him. Of course, that's a Canadian thing. A lot of my friends here in the U.S. really like those guys, but what about you?
I'm not a huge fan. I think it's pretty funny, some of the stuff I've seen, but I'm not. I haven't seen every episode and every season or whatever.
Right.
Years, you catch some of it here and there, and I do appreciate what they were doing there, and I think a lot of it is really funny that I have seen.
Yeah, it's funny. I always like to ask that question of people from the area because, you always look at the grass is always greener type concept. But, like here in the U.S., how we might perceive Canadians and vice versa. And so I just always wanted to ask a Canadian what you guys think about the Trailer Park Boys. So that's cool.
Yeah. We're not all...
You're not all like that. That's good. That's good. Anything else that you wanted to mention, John, while we have you on? Anything you wanted to plug or website or anything at all? You guys are on social media. People can get a hold of you on Facebook and anything else, though?
The main thing, we do have a Twitter. We do have Instagram. I'm in the process of trying to set up a merch shop for both bands, so that'll be coming in the new year as well.
Awesome.
I just like to, to stress to all your listeners how important it is, especially right now, the way the world is, the state of the world. I know everybody doesn't have, disposable income, but if you do and you dig a band out there, please
buy the merch. I know. I might put my money where my mouth is. Like I said, I ordered a shirt from you guys because I really like the band, and I think it's really important. Yeah, right now bands are hurting and they're not able to play, and that's when you sell merch. So, yeah, anybody listening, I'll link to their website in the episode description. And if you're interested in buying any merch, you can do it that way. Same with the Murder Metal Mayhem stuff. We encourage people, because it's tough. Times are tough for some more than others. And if you have an extra few bucks and you can buy a CD or a T-shirt or both, that's a very, very important.
Yeah, that all goes a long way. And even if you don't buy any merch, support these bands if you like them.
Right.
Share their videos, spread the word about them, because all that stuff is huge to us out here.
Right. I agree. Now, you had sent me some tracks to use, and I picked Pacify the Enslaved. I want to subject our listeners to a brutal assault of their eardrums with this one. So I'm going to play the whole song as we end this. But is there anything about that song that you wanted to mention, like maybe what it's specifically about?
Basically, that whole album is really reflective of what's going on with the whole COVID situation right now in the world. Basically right now the media is spoon feeding people, and basically people today are lazy. They want to be spoon fed. They don't want to search for the answers themselves. They want to be told what they're supposed to be doing, what they're supposed to be listening to. And kind of that the song is all about that. And basically they're giving you enough to keep you happy and keep going, but
Keep you under their thumb.
we're all basically enslaved.
Interesting. I would agree with a lot of what you just said. I try to stay away from political stuff for sure, but I think that's a valid point. I mean, I think that's a lot of people have that very same sentiment. So, but I hope everybody listening becomes a VOTOV fan like I did after hearing these guys. So, thanks, John, for coming on and talking to me, and best of luck to you guys. And horns high from all of us here at Murder Metal Mayhem. And thanks for entertaining us and giving us some killer death metal.
Thanks very much for having me. And
hell yeah.
Your fans.
All right, John. Thank you.
Thank you.
Man.